Sorry, we're gonna speak in English, I think. Just give me a second to set up here.
این موتورگازی مال کیه؟ صدای موتورگازی میاد این میکروفونش.
احتمالا موسیقی از سمت خودتونه چون ما نمیشنویم.
نه یکی میکروفونش رو باز میکنه.
All right.
نه درست میگن جناب امیری. یکی از بچه‌ها موتورگازی وارد میتینگ شد.
Welcome back, everyone, to Backends and Databases. I'm very excited to speak to you again, and I want to start the session about, what did we learn last time? What happened? What was topic of conversation? Please either jump in and say something or write something in the chat if you're not comfortable speaking.
About the base, I guess.
Sorry?
We talked about the basics of databases, I think, and yeah.
Great. More. What else?
There were 4 topics. I can't remember them right now, but we talked about them. We had a group, 2 by 2, and we talked about each topic. And now I think we are about to talk about, what was it? The connection of the databases from the front end and the back end. I think we have to speak about that today.
All right. So a little, let's revise what we did and speak a bit about details. So backends and databases are really important because in the end, there's not only a backend, there's also a front end. Someone wants to use a computer system. Let's talk about a website in this case, a certain front end, a website, like google.com, right? In a way, someone wants to interact with a machine. The way we interact with machines heavily relies on data. To be able to save data, we need a database, and to be able to process data, we need a backend, and to be able to display all of this beautiful information so we can understand and comprehend it, we need the front end. So a website, for example. We were talking about databases and the different kinds of databases. I did write down a few examples, for example, for relational databases. And we're gonna have this more. We're gonna have more examples for that today. We did hear about column databases, or in general about non-relational databases. There's this big difference between relational and non-relational, and this difference, we won't go into all kinds of databases that are non-relational because they're way more than even we touched by now. Hopefully you got the chance to review the YouTube link that I sent you. We will focus on those two, relational and document store. These will be the main topic of conversation. We won't, for example, go into graph databases so much, neither in vector databases. By the end of this course, I want you to be able to write a backend that talks to a database and work with that. I won't lead you to be able to develop all kinds of databases. It's not the purpose. I want you to be able to have an idea and get it into code and database as quick as possible. No deep dives here. just basic concepts and then apply it. And that's what we will do today. Do you have any follow-up questions from the last bits? Okay. I hear blissful silence. That means we can go on and talk about backends, because it's not only about databases, as we learned before, right? A database by itself doesn't get us the information so we can walk and talk with it. We will need a backend. So what the heck is a backend? We have a video. I'm gonna show a little video here, and give me a second. This. Okay.
Every website can be split up into two parts, the front end and the back end. The front end is all the visual stuff you see on the web page, and the back end is what saves and manages your data. For example, if you are on Amazon.com, the back end would store your order history, your profile, it would load search results, and much more. In this video, we're going to take a look at the technologies that are used in the back end of a website, and in another video, we explore the front end technologies. As an example, let's say that we're on Amazon.com and we do some shopping, and now we're ready to make an order. When I click place order, what happens? We're going to start from the ground up. Any computer that's connected to the internet, including your computer and my computer, can send a message across the internet to another computer that's also connected to the internet. So to simplify things, Amazon has a computer in their office building somewhere, and our computer is going to send a message containing our order to that Amazon computer. In this scenario, the computer that is sending the message is called the client, and the computer that is receiving the message is called the server. But before this happens, computers, they can't receive messages from the internet by default. We have to program them to be able to receive messages. To do that, we need a backend programming language. Almost every programming language has a feature that turns a computer into a server and allows it to receive messages. Popular backend programming languages are Java.
Okay. What are popular backend programming languages? Hit me.
JavaScript and Python, those are the two I know, which I'm not too familiar with backends. I usually work on frontends, but JavaScript and Python are the ones that I've heard of.
Yes. What else?
Know the format? I believe it is JSON.
A format. Okay, that's good. What kind of format? What do you format with JSON?
The kind of data that we receive from the front end, and we have to apply it in the back end. I believe it is JSON.
Yes.
I'm not pretty sure.
It's not necessarily a language, a programming language that we use. It is a way of formatting data. We will touch that later, but very good point. It's very important. Backend technologies, what else is out there? Ideas? Thoughts? Isan, do you know what other backends? We can't hear you.
صداتون بس نیست آقای امیری.
Okay, we can't hear Isan. I will go on. There's, for example, a language called Golang. That becomes more popular.
Marc, weißt du, womit bin ich beschäftigt? Nimmst du Screen auf oder nicht?
Ja.
Ja, okay, gut.
Any backend technologies that come to mind? Hast du eine Idee, was für Sprachen man noch fürs Backend nutzen kann?
Ja, SQL.
SQL ist eine Datenbanksprache.
Ja, was meinst du denn?
Zum Beispiel JavaScript, Python,
Ja,
Golang,
ja, Backend, ja, auch auf jeden Fall viele Sprachen und Möglichkeiten auch.
zum Beispiel C#,
Erst wieder, das ist ja, oder Python oder Node.js oder
TypeScript,
ja,
Node.js, um nur einige zu nennen. Es gibt einige Sprachen, in denen wir das ausdrücken können. Ihr habt zum Beispiel mit Frontend schon gearbeitet. Im Frontend ist normalerweise, kann man nicht viel anders machen als JavaScript. On top of JavaScript kann man noch andere Frameworks nutzen, um mit Frontends zu arbeiten. Beim Backend sind wir ein bisschen flexibler, weil wir uns aussuchen können, in welcher Umgebung unser Backend läuft. Genau. So these are programming languages for backends. However,
JavaScript,
we'll
sometimes
hear
called
a few
Node.js,
more.
Python, Ruby, and Java. However,
Python, Ruby, Java. There's even more. Ruby, Java.
I have a question. Is HTTP also a language or just a type of orders?
HTTP is a protocol. The hypertext transmitting protocol, don't quote me on this, is a protocol that enables computers to talk to each other. We will go into detail another day, but this is a standard way of communication, basically. So in computer science, we have a lot of standards that enable communication, and one of those is HTTP. And we use it to write APIs. So the communication between backend and front end, for example, they heavily rely on HTTP.
Sorry, what is the difference between HTTP and HTTPS?
HTTPS is a secure version of the HTTP protocol, which has more encryption implemented.
Basically, SSL encryption, so it becomes HTTPS, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a question. With HTTP protocol, can we send orders from the front end to the back end?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can, and we will. Let's continue with the video bits, see what else he's talking about.
Using a backend programming language by itself is actually really difficult and requires a huge amount of code. So there are two tools that we use to help with this, a backend framework and a package manager. A backend framework helps us create a server much easier and with a lot less code. Each backend programming language has a few different frameworks to choose from, but the most popular ones are Express.js for JavaScript, Python Django, Ruby on Rails, and Java Spring.
So, what is the backend framework? Any idea?
I'm assuming it's some kind of tools, depending on which language we use. Each language has its own tools that is basically a framework that makes it easier to write code. Well, to write less code, actually, not easier.
Yes. Easier and less, both. So computer science is based on abstraction. We want to abstract. This is a general human way to make life comprehensible. We make abstractions of reality. Let's say I'm trying to remember a set of cell phones, right? So this is a cell phone. You can't see it very well because it's blurred. I know, it doesn't matter. And there's another cell phone, right? These are two cell phones. You can't see, but I will tell you it's the iPhone 8 and the iPhone SE second edition, which is basically the same phone but with a few different specs. How am I as a person to differentiate those two? Well, I try to make it a bit easier and see what do they have, right? What properties do they have? So by which properties and by which attributes do I differentiate those two? Per se, I create a model of cell phones, and I same as database, right? I create a database of phones, and I write down the names, the processor speed, the RAM. I write down certain attributes, right? I abstract reality. That's what we do when we program. We abstract reality. It's the same concept that we do with the frameworks. We abstract a certain set of functionalities that will make us easier to program a specific task, right? In this case, we want to be able to talk to a database through a backend. So all backends kind of work the same on principles that we will learn soon. So basically, someone does a lot of work for us, and we have to stick to the rules they invent to, in the end, achieve a similar task than many other peoples that have the same problems as us. All right, a lot of explanatory. We'll go into details later. However, we don't use pure TypeScript, Golang, or Python. No, we use frameworks. Same thing in the front end. We will use a framework. We use an abstraction of already written code. A lot of people did work that we can reuse. Right, that's frameworks. And there's a more comprehensive list of frameworks that I did earlier, and you can see it here. Basically, I wrote a list, you see it here, of a lot of frameworks, just 20. And you see they are written in a way they are not so easy to understand or read for us. It's not so well readable. However, it's written in the language that our database uses, in SQL. SQL is a relational database. If you want to see what the computer sees, I'm gonna write another SQL statement that that will give us all the backend frameworks there are. Select then from So this is what how complicated it can be to work with the computer, right? So I have to understand the computer's language. Everything that we're doing is trying to make it more easier to talk with the computer. Oh, oops. I'm not an expert in this, but basically I just told my database to give me a complete list of all the backend frameworks it knows. Now you see a table that is by far more readable, right? This table has a list of backend frameworks with their name, their link, and their benefits, right? So I have a nice list now. However, up here we also see a table with popular projects. So a lot of online projects that we know, like, I don't know, you might know Spotify or MySpace, Mozilla, GitHub, Shopify. You might have heard of Instagram. All of them, they are using front-end and back-end frameworks. So what if we want to see which framework is being used by Instagram? Well, there are two tables and we kind of have to connect them. So what I'm doing is first basically I want to have like a name of the popular project that I'm talking about. It's Instagram, right? And oh no, sorry, it's the other way around. Sorry, the thing that I prepared is the other way around. So before, I'm gonna wrap it up really quick. We were talking about a few backend frameworks. My personal most interesting backend framework is Flask. You might not know it yet. You'll get to know it soon. And basically, I want to have a list of popular projects that are using Flask. So we have popular projects here, all right, and we have backend frameworks. You see Flask here, and there's no reference whatsoever about projects that are using Flask. However, there are a list of projects that all contain a certain ID, so an identifier that links to the database. We have two tables and they're kind of linked together. What I will do in the statement that I'm writing is I'm going to search for popular projects that have that are linked with a certain framework. In this case, it's called Flask. So I'm searching the framework by its name and then looking up this framework in the list of popular projects. It's gonna let me wait for a bit, but here we see, oh, it's Pinterest and LinkedIn. They both use Flask. So now we connected two databases. I know that's a lot for now, and no need to understand all that, but we can do cool things with this sort of database querying. Let's say, for example, we want just all the benefits from Flask. That's the way we would write it. So that's SQL querying, right? I'm not going into detail into this because in the real world these days, these sort of statements are abstracted for us. And I want you to learn the fast way to program, not the tidy way or the ultra detailed way. I want you to be able to build projects fast. It's good to know that this is there and this is how it works. However, there are very smart people out there that help us to abstract and never touch something like this. The example you just saw, you'll find it here. Just click on the link and you'll find the SQL fiddle. If you want to work with that, just go ahead, click on it and write SQL statements. Yeah, so now we heard a lot about frameworks and what they do. Give me a second. All right. Good. We want to link backends and databases. The big thing is what we're going to do then and what is the purpose. So any idea what could be basic operations that we do when we work with data? Let's think of the website, right? We are We just saw the example with Amazon. When you work on an Amazon order, you say, I want to order this product. What kind of operations will be done using this order example?
I know there are 4 orders. The number 1 is get, is to receive information, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And another one is post, is a method to create new data. And another command is put, is a method to update. And the command delete, it is a method to delete something.
Mm-hmm. Very good, very good. Basically, it's all about creating, updating, and deleting. Create, update, delete. Those are the basic so-called CRUD operations. These CRUD operations, they...
Read.
Sorry?
No. Read, no.
Wir haben create.
CRUD. Read.
Create.
Ja, read meine ich.
Ah, great. Thank you, Ethan.
You're welcome.
Exactly. We also have the read. It's really important. So, given the example that we did earlier, let me see. All right. So create, update, no, sorry, read. We have read, create, update, delete. Different order. So CRUD, C, create, R, read, U, update, D, delete. Let's map this to the example we saw earlier. What is this?
What is the information about the products?
I mean, we're creating something. I'm just trying to pinpoint.
Oh, I see. Okay. Understood.
Okay. So this is not a perfect example. This is not a backend. However, for example, we're inserting data. In this case, if we would have a backend, a complex backend that handles database requests, that's what's happening in the database. Saying, okay, we're creating new backend frameworks in our database through our backend. So we are putting information there. This is what will happen in the database, right? The database will be instructed to take new information and store it. That's what we have here with create. So that's an example on the database level that happens to create data. Now, Sajad, you also mentioned those things here. So what is that?
I think there are different languages.
Sorry, can you repeat? I didn't understand.
I didn't get what you say.
Can you repeat what you said? I didn't get what you said.
And there are different languages. So get, post, put, on, delete. These are, I think, about a language. And in another language, they are probably called create, read, update, or delete. They are basically the same thing, but in different languages. So there are different ways to mention them, maybe.
Yeah, kind of. So this is the concept: create, read, update, delete. Right? This is the concept we go by to talk about applications. A lot of, if you're reading literature, it will talk about CRUD applications. So basically an application that will enable you to do all these operations. That's the concept. There is, for the HTTP layer, so the HTTP protocol that you were talking about, the way of communicating, there are certain operations. Let's say, that there are certain operations that we have in the HTTP protocol. And we will use them to actually interact between frontend and backend. Get, post, put, delete. In HTTP, there are way more instructions like this. This is a subset that we will use for our applications, and for the most part of your professional life, that might actually be enough if you're a backend developer. HTTP knows way more. However, this is what we're doing. All right, enough talk. I want you to see some code. So what is a backend was the big question. I have an example for you. So this is actual code from a backend. Before we dive into the backend, you will see the database. So earlier we were talking about JSON. What you see here is a database in JSON format. I'm gonna compare real quick to what you saw earlier, right? This is a database in SQL, and this is a database in JSON. Here I'm using a file-based database. So this is a database that is written in one file. You might understand already that this might not be the largest performing database because it's file-based and it's not the fastest way to store and analyze data. However, for our educational purpose, it'll be more than enough for us to store a list of backend frameworks. Right, we have the same information, we have a link, we have a name, we have an ID, we have benefits that come with it, and there are also popular projects that they're using. And there's the actual backend that works with this database. All right, I will let you look at this for a second. I want to highlight real quick the purpose of this course, right? We're doing technical things, but I would like to invite you all to take the chance and practice your German, because in the end I'm not providing all the technical details. I will use online materials so you can learn by yourself. So the main point, basically everything technical you can learn with the internet better than with me. But what we can do here is presentation skills, is interacting about technical things in English or in German. Ihr könnt jederzeit Fragen auf Deutsch stellen und auf Deutsch antworten. Das ist der größte Vorteil, this is the biggest benefit that you can get from this course. Because landing a job in Germany, 50% is your presentation. The moment you have an interview, it's really not so much about your technical skills, because a company might actually be interested in you as a person. They want to be able to speak to you. If they can't do that, that's a biggie. So practice your German, switch your camera on, work on your presentation skills is my invitation to you. All right, what is here? What do we see? Anything you find interesting? Find anything that you know or that you can relate to? Let me know your thoughts.
I am extremely unfamiliar with this, but as far as I can tell, it's basically exchanging data between databases, I think, from what I can tell from the text. So it's basically one database is sending requests to zum Beispiel JSON file, and it's the other way around, that there's another request going to TinyDB, and data is being exchanged, I think.
Okay. So we only have one database. There's no exchange between databases. But yes, we're interacting with a database. That's correct.
Maybe between
Okay,
two
I see.
the database.
Can you repeat that, Sajad?
Maybe between two tables in the database. For that connection, we are using that. Vielleicht we have 3 different tables and we want to connect them to each other. Can we use this technique?
At the moment, we only have one. Wir haben nur eine Datenbank.
Okay.
Genau. We can, of course, connect databases. Wir können Datenbanken miteinander verbinden. In dem Beispiel haben wir das nicht gemacht. So this example, no. There's only one database.
Not 2 databases. One database and different tables in the database.
Yes.
In the tables in one database.
Yeah. At the moment, we only have one table.
One table. Okay.
Yeah. Anyone else? Ideas about the codes? Questions about the code?
Marc, also es ist meine erste Klasse, so es ist mein erster Termin, so ich bin nicht so familiär, so ja, ich kann nicht so viel meine Meinung sagen, so ich möchte nur lernen, okay, so.
Ja.
Wenn ich nichts sage, das bedeutet nicht, dass ich nicht mitarbeiten will.
Natürlich.
Das bedeutet, dass ich, ja, wenn ich Informationen darüber habe.
Ja, natürlich. Okay. Danke für euer Feedback. Ich erkläre einfach ein paar Sachen. Ich habe, so earlier I did say, we are heavily relying on work that someone else did for us. Up here we see these statements. It says from flask, import flask, request JSONify. So what we say up here is we're using someone else's code to be able to perform complex calculations and don't have to rewrite everything ourselves. Someone else did that for us. It's a great benefit of like people working together in the IT. It's very clear because all of this code that is being developed, much of that code is open source. So it's public domain. Everyone can use and access it. What we're using is the so-called packages. You will see it in the video that I will send you after this course that we already started watching. We're basically using the backend framework Flask. So someone got a great idea. Hey, we're gonna have to deal with a lot of data and talk to databases, so I'm gonna write a framework for it. So what we have here is already a complete backend, but it only works because there are smart people that write frameworks for us and write code for us that we are using. And that's what we're doing. We get the backend framework, Flask, and we are using the TinyDB. TinyDB is a way of writing a file-based database. So basically, because in the data we see here, I'm sticking to a certain format, like the JSON format, including the numbering for each data point. This enables me to use the TinyDB. So I instruct TinyDB to read all the data points from the JSON file. All right, great. Now I have the TinyDB database and can use this variable db. And with db, for example, I can say I want to go to the table Backend Frameworks. Looking here, table Backend Frameworks. Yes, great. And now I save that table in my variable frameworks table. And to ultimately list all the frameworks that are in this table, I'm going to say frameworks table.all. I'm going to call the function all. So in this variable, I will have a list of all frameworks. Now, ultimately, what I need to do to display that is I'm going to JSONify it. So I'm encoding it into JSON, making sure it's in the JSON format that we also see here. All right, and I'm sure you're thrilled to see the output of all that. Give me a second. So I'm running the backend, and what we're seeing on first sight is if we call the backend, we have a little browser here. We call the backend with the basic root, so slash. It's like calling google.com. It says welcome to the Flask app. And I'm gonna edit it a bit. Welcome to the Backends and Databases workshop. Basically, I can define what I want here. This is a web server, right? Specific kind of web server because I can define all the routes that I'm talking that will be accessible. So if someone does the GET request, methods or methods, someone does the GET request that we see here, the GET request to the root slash, so to a basic root, they will get welcome to Backends and Database Workshop. Great. That's what we have when we have google.com, right? You hit google.com and then return a message. More complex for sure, but that's what we have. And the same we can do with our list of frameworks, right? We have our frameworks, and now it goes through the DB JSON and it gives us this set of frameworks. All right, that's not perfectly readable, right? But as I said, we're programming backends. So what we want in the end is we want to be able to write code that lets our front end speak with the backend. We want to build an interface that enables this exchange backend front end and ultimately also with the database. So this is what we did. We wrote something that lets a front end or even a person, right, with a user interface such as the browser, go through all of the frameworks that we have in our database. So we made our database accessible. All right. Questions so far?
I have a question. So basically what we're doing here is defining commands for the database, right? So when someone uses the user interface or just uses commands, he gets data based on the corresponding commands we made, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, thanks.
So we're defining routes, URLs. This is a URL basically, to access the backend. So what we then do in the backend and what we give back from the backend is our thing. But then in the call that to our backend, in the get entries, we then can say, okay, we're accessing a database. You can also multiply 2 by 4 if you like and give that back to the user. All kinds of calculations, but we're choosing to access the database and give back the data we have in the database. But essentially what you said is right.
Okay, vielen Dank.
Gerne. All right, any other remarks? Okay. All right, so we have seen here this call. So what if we think of our CRUD operations? What did we see just now? What is this? Which of those colors?
I think it was read. Well, we didn't really create it because it was a preset. We went through the reading process.
Correct. This is about reading. And you can also see it with the get, because the get is the HTTP request. Sorry, here. Where does this go? Here. Exactly. Give me a second. Here. We were reading from the database. We were reading from the backends. So it was, you can see it. Sorry, I didn't switch to, yeah. We can see it here. It's get, right? Get is the HTTP operation. So this is what the backend knows. The backend knows, okay, I'm doing a HTTP, I'm listening to an HTTP call. So a call from an outside entity that says, I want to get something from you. Please get me that thing, get me those frameworks. That's how you talk to a backend. You say, what kind of method, HTTP method do I use? Get. I want to get something. And you're going to say, what do you want? What do you want to get? I want to get frameworks. Right? In this simple example, it's just that. And that's how you talk to the backend. That's how you also define it.
There is also another order that is operation that is called post, I think.
Yeah.
To add something.
Correct. So let's say I didn't test this, so I hope it works. Let's say we want to add something to our database. So we kind of need to talk with our API to make this possible. This is how we define it. We say we accept a post operation, right? So the HTTP method to work on that is saying post. When we go back to our CRUD operations, that's the create, right? So we use post as HTTP method, and the concept behind is to create something. And this is how we implement it. Basically, we get data from the user, and it should be in the format that our database is used to, because we are accepting the request data, and then we're storing it right away in our database. So I haven't prepared this step. We're gonna be working with this in the next session, but that's the way we implement that in our so this is stuff for the next session, and we're gonna go more into it. However, in your homework, you will be working on GET requests and other beautiful things. After the session, I'm gonna send you some exercises you can do online. However, to be able to do this, you will need an account with the website that I'm working on here. So you will basically create a clone of what I did, of the exercise we have, and you're gonna work with that. Also, as I did send in Slack some instructions what you can prepare to work outside of this website. So you can work all of this, you can work on your computer, but for now, to make things simpler, I will use this tool so you can get started without big setup. But make sure to do the setup, so at later stage of this course you'll get your own projects running on your computer. Yeah, questions, remarks?
Yeah, I have one question. Is this an app or is this like a web browser page?
This is a web browser page. It is linked here. This is the example, right? You see it's replit.com. So on the Miro board, I hope you're all using the Miro board, you can just click the link and register with the website.
Okay. کلا.
بچه یکم تصویرتون رو نشون بدید. میخوام از ویدیو استفاده بکنم برای پیج اینستاگرام. اونایی که نیستن یکم میخوام تصویرتون باشه لطفا.
من فقط یه سوال دارم بپرسم. Question from Mark. When we type the operation get, we get information from the framework directory, okay?
Mhm.
And what would we do, what can we do when we want to get other information from other directory? Do we have, can we define new order like get one or get two to get information from other directory? Or is it just one get?
This is a method, this is not a directory. So if you say get, that just means, hey, we are getting information. It doesn't say from where. From where is more defined here.
Okay. So I have two frameworks, okay? How do I get the second one?
Mm-hmm. So let's say you want something like that. I want the second framework, like the framework 2. Correct?
Yes.
That's what you
Yes.
want. Well, beautiful. That's a great question. I'm not going to answer it. This is going to be your homework. I'm going to provide you with some materials so you can work on this yourself. Okay?
Okay. Can I have at least?
Sorry?
Can I have a hint at least?
Yeah, of course, you're going to get hints, but just not now. I don't want to go into explaining. We're at the end of our session, and it will be a bit over-explaining. It will be something like this, right? You will define a path, and then you will work on the operations on how to get the second framework. But I think part of your work is going to be a lot about how I'm going to teach myself. I'm not here to teach you, just explaining some basic concepts, but you're going to need to teach yourself. I'm guiding you through that, and also in Slack, I'm always there for questions, right? You don't get the things that I send you, write me a message. It's fine. I'm happy to help. All right. So this is a really important topic. Create, update, read, update, delete. You'll be touching that all of your developer life if you choose to be a developer. All right. So, yes?
Mershot has a question in the chat.
Aha, I didn't see that. Thank you. But it's very easy to SQL workbench. Can I ask if no one else has a question? Yes, please, Mesha, ask you a question. I don't know if I can help you with something as specific, but please ask a question.
Yeah, yeah, no worries.
Draft.
Yeah. I really didn't want to hear that question. I'm just kidding. Please ask a question. I had technical difficulties.
Okay, so it's a very specific question. We have a problem in the thing that we are working on, and we have a database on MySQL workbench, and I want to know if there is a way that I can access it, like remote access from my system. I can access the database on someone else's system, because the server is, I think, on localhost, and it doesn't give permission or access to me to get things that I want from it.
All
How
right.
can I get a remote access?
I'm not sure. I really don't know, because I don't know the specific application. One thing that if you have like such specific questions, I would like to emphasize, in Slack you can always hit this video icon and can like screen record what you're doing, right? So you can hit like, okay, I want to record the whole screen. I want to have this recording. Now the recording starts. All right, I'm going to talk, and I'm going to share my screen, going to emphasize points, and then hit stop. Now the recording starts. And recording's there, and I'm hit done and send over the recording. So if you have specific questions that you feel need more explanation, please send a video so I can get your point.
Yeah, that's very
great. All right. Thank you for today's session. I will keep you posted with examples and homework. Hit your keyboard and write me questions if you have any. I'm happy to answer them. And yes, see you next week then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Khodafez.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Tschüss.
Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao.